Good. Hot mics today, ladies and gentlemen. Hot mics today on Well Adjusted. I'm your host, Levi, and this is my co-host, as always, Jonathan. Say hello, Jonathan.
Oh, I see. You're the host.
I'm the host, damn it.
I'm the co-host. What's the guy who sits...
I'm the researcher.
What's the guy who sits beside Conan? I don't even see. This is the... I don't even know his name.
Jonathan is actually...
Andy Richter?
Jonathan is the bones of the show, and I guess I'm the organs. Wow. Okay, so really good start today.
I always thought of you as like the freshly moisturized skin of the show.
Oh, that's awesome. The epidermis. Yes, there it is. I'm the epidermis of the show.
Which one of us is the socialite or...
Well, I'm the one who's put up the flyers, so...
That's true.
That would be me, I think. I don't know. Anyway...
I share it every week with like my 60 Twitter followers. I don't know
right?
why we haven't blown up.
I know. So today we're covering a fantastic piece of pop culture, not just horror pop culture, but pop culture in general. This is, to me, like one of the first horror movies I remember knowing about. And it is a very well, reviewed film. Some critics didn't like it, I guess, but a lot of people did.
You can't make everybody happy, even if you're Stephen King.
Even if you're Stephen King. And that film, of course, is the 1976 Carrie.
Probably the most honest movie ever made about high school. And just how,
Right.
Well, American high schools. I don't know anything about high schools in other parts of the world, but about just how, I don't even know if I know a word that's bad enough. What horrible, help me out.
Hierarchy.
Horrible, hierarchical, bullshit, mean girls. It's just, it really, it just captures the whole dreadful experience of American high schools. Yeah, they're engineered
It really does.
to be horrible.
Yeah.
Can you think of another institution you would... Okay, let me ask you this.
Right.
You've got a choice. You have to go back and do high school all over again, or you can spend 1 year in a federal prison.
I'd go back to high school.
Really?
I've spent the night in jail. I don't ever want to go back.
I'm talking about like one of the cushier federal prisons. Like where you
I can read the whole time, right?
You get to read,
work out.
you get to take classes.
3 meals a day. I mean, I guess I was getting that.
A couple of them have tennis courts.
Yeah, that's crazy to me. But yeah, no, I'd go back to my high school. I'm glad I'm out, and I'm glad I'm never going back. But I think I would prefer high school over prison. Honestly, I really would.
Well, what's the difference though?
I don't know, man.
Sexual trauma in the showers. Check in this movie.
Check. That first scene. Yeah. It's I don't know. Like there was, you learn a lot in high school. I guess you learn a lot in prison too. You better,
Where do you think you learn more? Where do you think you learn more skills that are applicable to like moving in the world, to being a successful human being? Prison or high school?
Well, I've heard if you spend enough time in prison, from a Stephen King novel, Shawshank Redemption, spend enough time in prison, you can't go back.
True that.
So, high school, again. You're not going to win, Jonathan. High school is not prison.
Well, I'm not done with the point. There's plenty in this movie to
Yeah, there
reinforce
are.
it, and we're going to get there.
This film was directed by Brian De Palma. He's also famous for directing The Untouchables, Scarface, and the first Mission Impossible.
Started a franchise.
Yeah.
Not an easy thing to do.
No, and then just kind of lost it after that. I mean, some of his films after Mission Impossible are kind of questionable.
Yeah, I wondered. We talked about that a little. Like, what might explain that drop off? Because he went from, making big budget, really successful movies, and then after that, it was all much smaller movies that weren't well received. And I'm not saying that a smaller movie necessarily needs to be worse than a big budget one. But they weren't real. I haven't even seen a lot of them, but apparently they were not well received critically
What
or
was
commercially.
the Mars one? The Ghost
I
of
did
Mars?
see that one, Mission to Mars.
Mission to Mars, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. That's the one with the little dog robot that goes crazy.
I think so. I don't
Tries
know
to
if
kill Val Kilmer.
Yes, that's Mission to Mars. Yeah. So the screenplay was written by Lawrence D. Cohen. We know that Stephen King wrote the novel. and it's starring Sissy Spacek and as our title character Carrie White, and then we have Piper Laurie who plays her mother. Both were nominated, which is very important. Number one, 2 women nominated in 1976 for supporting role was rare until they actually came up with the Best Supporting Actress category. And then also it's horror, and horror was not really, at this point, still not taken very seriously. So that was kind of monumental that both of them were nominated.
Do you know what year the book came out? So the movie came out in 76.
Yeah, the movie came out in 76. I don't know when the book came out.
I think the book was like 74, 75.
Was it? So De Palma had the idea for this film before the book was even popular.
I'm going to look it up. I'm looking it up.
Look it up. But it also has John Travolta in it, which I've somehow forgot that he was in this film.
Well, he's the least Travolta in this movie that he's ever been.
Yeah, I want to talk more about his character too, because it's a little more played out in the book apparently than it is in the film. What year was the book released?
April 5th, 1974. So hey, I was right.
Yeah, hey.
Come at me with Stephen King trivia.
Right.
I'll take your lunch money.
So yeah, he plays John Travolta plays Billy, the mean girl's boyfriend, basically.
Okay, but here's maybe I'm bringing this up too early, but something that always strikes me, especially in the movie, is how, because we talked a little bit before about this is a novel about with a main character who's a young woman written by a man, and then it's a movie adaptation directed by a man.
Yeah.
So it's very much, and people love to talk about this shit these days, it's very much like it's a story about female experience, but of course it's made largely by men.
Right.
The story is envisioned by men, and you'll get shit about that. But one of the things that strikes me about whenever I watch the movie in particular is how Carrie's primary antagonists are not men.
No.
Carrie's suffering is almost entirely at the hands of other women.
This is a woman's film, and that's what's interesting about it being from a male writer and a male director. There's a female director, I can't remember the name off the top of my head, who praises King and Brian De Palma's effort and says it's a successful one. She related to Carrie, even though it was made by men. To hear a woman say that validates it to me, because I can sit here and say I think it's a successful effort too, but I'll never know the woman's gaze. So to hear a female director talk about it being a successful effort was important to me, because I'm glad to hear that.
I mean, Levi, I got to be honest. The hardest thing about being your friend is your male gaze.
I don't have eyes for you, Jonathan, and I'm sorry that hurts your feelings.
I feel them on my butt, so I don't.
Oh my God!
I feel a lot of things on my butt, though.
You're old.
That can be part of it.
that shower scene at the beginning is kind of traumatizing.
Well, it's not just. Traumatizing, yes, but it's. And you have to talk about this when you talk about anything with Stephen King. It's iconic. It was immediately iconic.
Well, here's why.
And that shower.
There's multiple reasons why, though.
But for number one, it's just so viscerally horrible.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. And it takes that like one of those archetypal experiences, because thank God we don't know what this is like firsthand. But having daughters, I know a tiny bit about what it's like, just in terms of that worry over like that first menstruation, when it's going to start.
Right.
And being embarrassed by it or being prepared for it. So that's like an archetypal concern, I think. And then the way he uses that and then immediately turns it into this, just like the worst possible fucking outcome you can imagine in the worst possible environment, surrounded by the worst possible people, which are, of course, other young women.
Not
in this
one
case.
Of them is empathetic to the fact that she just doesn't understand what's happening because she's never been taught.
And that's some Lord of the Flies.
Yeah, it shows right off the bat. It shows right off the bat what kind of world this high school exists in, or the hierarchy in this.
Mean Girls.
Yeah. Oh, it's bad. It's rough, dude. And I also want to talk about the female director. that I'm going to keep referring to is Karine Kusama, and she made a very valid point about the shower scene and how, yes, there's a lot of male locker room talk, and all that, and the negative connotations to that, and there certainly are. But there's also this women's locker room thing as well, where like they use their nudity as like power and swagger almost, and that's what's kind of portrayed in the film. Is it's almost sexual, but it's them.
But it's weaponized. I mean, it's not
exactly, and that's the word she used too. I think is they're weaponizing the fact that they're young and beautiful, and there's some girls in the locker room that aren't comfortable with that and don't consider themselves beautiful, and so therefore don't flaunt their bodies. And so it's there's so much happening in that first scene. It's hard to get it if you're a younger viewer. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't see that scene when I was a kid because I saw this movie on television. So that scene is barely in the film.
I don't remember how old I was when I saw this.
I was going to ask you and sorry, this is kind of going to get off topic. What was your first experience with Carrie? Like, do you remember what image you saw? Or
this is one of those where I saw the movie before I read the book, because I started reading Stephen King when I was about 9, I think.
Oh wow, yeah, cool. I didn't know that about you.
I was that kid. I was too awkward to do anything other than read books, which is all I did for the longest time. But I think I read Carrie. I saw the movie probably when I was around 12, but I started reading Stephen King when I was around 9. And man, you talk about just a slap in the face for an opening.
Yeah. Yeah.
Set a goddamn tone for the rest of the movie.
Yeah, because around the time I'd first seen this film was the first time I'd learned about that stuff. And so I immediately sympathized with Carrie, because I didn't know that, when I was 11 years old, I didn't know what menstruation was.
Well, most boys are blessedly ignorant of that whole process, right? They don't know anything about like female biology. Let's just call it that, like the basics of biology. There's that day in the 8th grade when they pulled us all out and separated us into different groups. Yeah. Was it 7th grade? I forget exactly.
It was probably like 7th.
But the boys over here and the girls over here. And I always desperately wanted to know exactly what the girls were being told. I think just because I was so nosy.
Yeah. Well, it's mysterious. You know, it's like, oh my God, what I can imagine what they're going to tell us. What are they going to tell the girls, Do
you remember what they told us?
Well, I just remember, for me, it was like protection and STDs and hormones. Dude, I went to Jessieville. Like, come on, we didn't get a lot of. Well, hey, man, most of it was just slideshows.
I went to Mina. It's not like that's the seat of high culture, or
better than Jessieville. I don't know though.
How many people lived in Jessieville when you grew up?
There were 2,000 people in the phone book, but that was because they included Hot Springs Village. So it was less than 2,000 people.
Okay, so that's slightly smaller than Mina. I think Mina's hovered around like the $5,000. I'm sorry, $5,000.
$5,000.
5,000 population mark for as long as I can remember. I don't think they count anymore.
Yeah, Mina's a little larger.
It would go down. But all I remember them telling us is like a warning about wet dreams. A very brief note about contraception.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Incredibly brief, right? I mean,
yeah.
We all already knew everything they were telling us. And then, they were like, oh, and don't be worried when the hair starts to grow in weird places. Yeah. Actually, I could use a reminder about that now, since it's coming out of my ears. And
TMI. No, yeah. Oh, yeah, that happens when you get older.
Other locations of note.
But yeah, back to Carrie. I think I was eager to rewatch it because I hadn't seen it as an adult. I really hadn't. I think it scarred me that much as a kid. Like, that ending scene was so visceral. It's just an amazing scene, and we'll get there. Trust me. That is the backbone of this film, is that prom scene. So after the shower scene happens, they send her home. She's been traumatized, made fun of, and she just had her first period. So
a rare act of mercy on the part of a high school.
And they're smoking in the principal's office, which, God, it's awesome.
I remember people smoking outside in my first year of high school, and they clamped down on it though.
That happened before I was in high school,
and that is when we lost American freedom.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They took our rights. It's my body, my choice. Anyway, so her mom finds out about this because they call home, and her mom,
and of course, her mom is very caring, a very understanding person. So
right.
she sits, she makes them some tea. She sits Carrie down in this beautiful room filled with pastel colors and some morning light, and she tells her that, honey, like we talked about before,
right?
You've taken another step toward becoming a woman,
right? That's not what happens.
It's a beautiful thing. There's nothing to be ashamed of. The body doesn't need to be a source of shame.
It's not what happens.
This is the way things are supposed to happen. And then she pours her a nice bath, lights some candles, and puts some rose petals in there.
So can we talk about what actually happens?
Sure.
So her mom is a religious fanatic, and this is a recurring theme throughout King's work. That your obsession and religious fanaticism ends up being nothing compared to the powers at hand, and so that can be taken badly, or that can be taken as heroic.
Tease that out a little bit. What do you mean? Your religious mania has nothing.
So
no match for the powers at hand. What do you mean?
So Stephen King is a religious person. So I'm going to talk as if this is Stephen King's universe. The people who are religious fanatics in his work are religious fanatics for the wrong reason, and that's why they are seemingly overpowered by the evil that is in his books. But in this case, it's not necessarily evil. Yeah. It's just another power that she could never comprehend because she's a religious fanatic. But it's interesting because he has religious fanatics in other cases that end up being heroes, like the priest in Salem's Lot, for instance. So he throws it around a little bit, but yeah, religion is a common theme. Like I talked about one of his newer books is revival, and I thought that meant like religious revival, but it literally means like to revive someone from the dead. But there was a religious character in that film, and so or in that book, and so.
But he's not like
he throws that in there a lot.
King religious maniacs are frequently the villains or among the villains in Stephen King stories. But they're not always. I mean, like The Stand.
No.
The Stand is basically
The Stand too.
The Stand is basically a Christian allegory,
right?
I mean, at least on one level.
I'm saying there are cases where that's not true, but it happens a lot.
But I think it's interesting to try to tease out: is there a coherent or standard interpretation you can take from the different ways in which religious people get presented, because sometimes they are the villains or among the villains, as they are in Carrie, just sources of complete irrationality and viciousness. But yet at other times, most notably in The Stand, because you have Mother Abigail, who is like a source of supernatural good tied straight to the God in that universe. And you have other instances where supernatural good jumps in and helps at least a little. So I don't know. Anyway, I don't have an answer to that, but it's something I think about a lot, is if there is like a coherent position on helpful religious belief versus vicious religious belief in his stories. Like if you could tease out a definite like outline of how those two things work.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean,
I don't think there's anything like an argument. I don't want to say he's arguing. Well, this is the true religion.
Muddies it in his further work too. Like he doesn't make it, it's not, he believes a certain thing and that's what every book is about, and so, which I'm thankful for. But so her mom's a religious fanatic and locks her in a closet with spooky Jesus after she finds out.
Look, I've got 5 kids, and that's how we do all of our discipline. Any problem? Go to the spooky Jesus closet and stay there.
Yeah, it's really creepy.
And if that doesn't work, you do it again, but you make them smoke a carton of cigarettes.
Yeah, that'll help. Her mom's a smoker, right? Which I found. I don't know. I don't think she was. I can't remember right off the top of my head. But
filthy habit, Levi Holmes.
No, I know. That's why I'm just can't believe that her mom would do that. That's the temple. You can't do that. So she goes on this spiel about how Eve was weak and hits her with the Bible. Like it's just, ugh. So we find out really quick that, Carrie has two horrors in her life and there's no escape from either of them, because she'll escape the horror of her high school just to go home to the horror of her mother, and it's very sympathetic. Almost everyone relates to Carrie in some way, shape, or form. Even so even the bullies, so think about if a bully, the people who bullied one another or other kids in high school, if they saw this film, do you think they would relate to Billy and the other mean people, the bad people, I guess I'll call them? Or do you think they would relate to Carrie?
I think most of them are immediately going to relate to Carrie because most bullies don't see themselves as bullies.
Yeah. Oh, this is what we talked. Yeah, we did talk about this. Yeah.
Most really shitty people don't see themselves as shitty people.
Yeah.
But that's also, that's true. But there's also this other thing, and stories, good stories, always trick us into doing this. Mm-hmm. But any viewer or reader almost always adopts the point of view character.
Yeah,
which is why anti-hero stories work so well, right?
Yeah, we get invested into the character we know the most about, basically.
Like I watched Breaking Bad all the way through, at least one time, before it occurred to me that Walter White is a bad guy.
Yeah.
You
want to like him
from the pilot episode. What was it that made me immediately forgive Walter White for anything that happened to him after? Oh, it's during the pilot where it's his birthday.
Yeah.
And he and his wife are in bed and she's doing like eBay on the side to try to boost their household income because he's a teacher and they're poor.
Yeah.
And so she's trying to win this auction, but wants to do something nice for his birthday. So under the covers, she starts giving him a handy. Which is the Dollar General gift of sexual acts. Like, please don't.
Yeah, don't.
It's okay to just say, no, I didn't have a chance to get you a present today. But that scene and the look on his face while that's happening, I was like, I'm going to forgive this guy anything he does after this because that was one of the most horrible things I've ever seen.
Well, it's what that show did, man. And I love stuff that make you watch. I mean, I don't because it's uncomfortable. But things that show you stuff you don't want to see and they hold your face there, sort of like the best horror does.
Yeah, but
interesting.
But we just have that, immediate sort of prejudice in favor of the point of view character.
Right. We can't help it. So also, that's one spooky picture of Jesus in her bedroom. And then, so what happens though is the coach, their like PE teacher, punishes the mean girls for what they've done to Carrie. So they've given
also very unusual in American high schools.
Well,
for the guilty to be punished?
Yeah, but it's also, I feel that, they used to punish kids with running and stuff,
I may have some unresolved
well, at least in sports. But she basically just adds to their animosity by punishing them the way she does, which is they're going to have to work out really hard for a week straight while Carrie has an excuse to not be in gym. And so their hatred for Carrie just grows. It's kind of like, I even remember thinking that as a kid, being like, well, this sucks because the teacher's trying to do the right thing here and give some form of justice, but it's only going to make the situation worse.
Well, but part of it is just that the kids treat Carrie, and you see this in real life, it's just complete viciousness. Mm-hmm. Like there are times when you're on the outs of any group, like whether you're in high school, male or female, I think this is across the sexes, but there are times when a group gives you some shit as like an initiation ritual.
Yeah.
This is really common.
Yeah.
Like I notice this all the time with men, right? Like when you're the new guy in any group, whether it's a new group of friends, a new like online gaming community, a new whatever, right? Yeah. They're going to shit on you a bit.
Yeah.
But it's not that kind of just vicious destroy you as a person, right?
No, they wanted to destroy her.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that is in kids. Maybe it's their own insecurities. but they wanted to destroy her. So there's random. This is something Brian De Palma does. Apparently, there's random shifts in tone in this film. Like, for instance, the when Billy John Travolta has that very American Graffiti. What's the stoner movie? Dazed and Confused scene where he's drinking a beer and the cops pull up and he gives him an aw shucks grin, or whatever. And so that's a very, but then you see right after that, you see the abusive relationship he has with his girlfriend, Chris. Where they hit each other and they play mind games with each other.
And he's the worst of the men in the story.
Right. And apparently in the book, he's even worse. Like, apparently in the book, him and Chris are more equal. His girlfriend are more equals. They're both messed up, evil people. But in the film version, it feels kind of like he's a little more controlled by her power over him, which is all sex. Which is this film goes into that, how there's power and sex over men, especially in high school. And so he becomes, for instance, the pig killing scene. It's very effective on showing how crazy and evil he can be, especially when he's egged on by Chris, the mean girl. Like, she's screaming, do it, do it, do it. And it like freezes and speeds up. Like, it's really effective scene.
Wait a minute. I thought when something bad happened, it was always supposed to be the man's fault.
No, Jonathan. And you know this. God, I don't need your crap on this. Oh man. All right.
You're just afraid of the comments, Levi.
No, I'm not. I'm actually fucking feminist. And you know that. Mom thinks power is from Satan. Mom thinks Carrie's power because Carrie's telekinetic.
Not exactly wrong.
Yeah.
Have you read the Old Testament?
I know, right? Carrie's power that she has, she can control things with her mind. She figures out, and apparently, it just gets stronger after her period happens. She's becoming this woman, and she's figuring out her power.
And what's interesting is that's like an old myth, like the poltergeists, right? Used to be associated with young women going through puberty.
Yeah.
I mean, it was sort of the pseudoscience around that phenomenon.
Yeah, and also the H word that they used to use for women that were hysterical. Yeah, hysterics. That's the same thing. Yeah, that was they were used to use that for the period stuff, the menstruation stuff, and that's all I can say.
Well, I got to take another detour.
Yeah.
If you had telekinesis, what would you use it for? Do you think you'd use it responsibly?
No, I need money.
I would steal shit all day long. I would wake up stealing. I'd go to sleep stealing.
No, I would just, honestly, the first thing that would pop into my head is, I'm a Jedi. Oh my God.
You would never have to get up for a remote control again.
I've been waiting on this since I was 9.
I'm afraid I would go real Marlon Brando.
You'd be just a fat slob. Yeah.
Because everything I could just summon to me.
Yeah. Sort of what he did.
Yeah, basically, but he had money instead of telekinesis. Yeah. It's the same difference, really. You might wait a little bit more. You wouldn't use it for what? Would you use it for anything fun?
I don't know. No, I mean, I guess stealing would be fun, but not really. I mean, what would I use it for?
I don't know. You could.
I got hands. I'd be lazy.
I'm just thinking of like applying a little instant karma to the world.
Oh, sure.
So like when you see somebody standing in line at the coffee shop and just being a real ass,
they're gonna spill their coffee all over.
Spill their coffee all over. I mean, not like really harming kind of things, but just a little karma, little instant karma,
little Jean Grey stuff.
Yeah.
And then you become the Phoenix, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
which Carrie kind of does.
There's a part Stephen King actually says that the film might be better than his book, which is a really funny thing for him to say, I think. But
it is, particularly given how much he has disliked some of the other adaptations of his novels, most notably The Shining, which always breaks my heart to hear how much he hates that movie, because I love the book and I love the movie for different reasons. I mean, I think you have to acknowledge just they are very different stories.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so he has a quote. We're pulling from our podcast Bible here, The Dance Macabre.
Helpfully written by Stephen King.
By Stephen King, yeah. So I thought it'd be nice to pull from this since we haven't referenced it in a few episodes. So he goes on to say this about De Palma's film. Quote, De Palma's approach to the material was lighter and more deft than my own, and a good deal more artistic. The book tries to deal with the loneliness of one girl, her desperate effort to become a part of a peer society in which she must exist, and how her effort fails. So I think in the book, she's like a little overweight and has like bad acne, and that's not Sissy Spacek. Sissy Spacek is a little, she looks different. Like she doesn't look like every other high school girl, and so they played more. I think the casting is awesome though.
Oh yeah, she's perfect for this.
Yeah.
This is she's been in a lot of great movies, but this is my favorite of any performance I've ever seen of hers.
He says that this is kind of like a High School Confidential. It was that high school is a place of almost bottomless conservatism and bigotry, a place where the adolescents who attend are no more allowed to rise above their station than a Hindu would be allowed to rise above his or her caste.
That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
When I was
That's why I
stammering over the
that.
word horrible. Exactly.
And here's what I was trying to say about women's sexuality and the power there. He goes on to, at one point, to kind of compare this to the Stepford Wives. And you'll see what I'm talking about. If the Stepford Wives concerns itself with what men want from women, then Carrie is largely about how women find their own channels of power and what men fear about women and women's sexuality, end quote. So yeah, he's talking about women absolutely have power in their own selves, and they have power over men with their sexuality. That's something I realized as a young man, being, girl crazy, I think I kind of and I've said this before, I think I kind of put too much stock in what the opposite sex thought. But that happens in high school. And this kind of happens.
Young, you don't know anything about it, but what you just said, the idea of women's particular power and women's particular agency, sexuality being one avenue through which that's expressed.
Yeah.
That's not a popular idea now.
Yeah, I don't know if it is either. But I mean, I'm agreeing with King here with that it is a power almost, but it's not. I don't know.
Because when you hear it talked about today, it's almost always talked about as a source of great victimhood.
Right.
Because men, of course, are capable of their own incredibly shitty behaviors.
That's true, but I guess what I'm saying is you're absolutely right, dude. Men have power in sex too, but they tend to, it's terrible how they use their physical power over, I don't know. I'm not talking about rape here. I'm talking about men want something from women, and they have the power to give it to us or not, and that's consent.
Sure,
I know we're getting into some really.
We started this show to get into the weeds.
I know,
no,
that's
but
true.
Of course, the threat of men is like the threat of brute force.
Yeah, exactly.
You have
that's
something I want, and physically, I'm capable of taking it from you.
Yeah, right.
Which is, it's perfectly understandable why that's a huge problem, has been a huge problem throughout history, and why it's still a source of great anxiety and mistrust and all kinds of shit. But like so many of the conversations that we're having these days, I think just because, well, there's a lot of reasons. Social media has made us all so dumb. But everything gets so one-sided, and we lose the ability to talk about, I don't know, the nuances of it and how power can work, across different dynamics. The brute force is the most obvious.
Yeah.
Because you can just see it. It's right there. But it exists on other levels too, I guess, is the point that I'm trying to make. And this is very much about that.
Yeah.
Because the guy that, what's the character's name who is Carrie's fake boyfriend for a minute?
Tommy?
Yeah. So
yeah,
he's actually reluctant by the end, right?
Yeah, he's actually a good person, and in the book he is too. He's actually trying to be a man in this situation and right
A
what was
responsible,
wrong.
decent human being.
Well, yeah, and protect those who may not be able to protect themselves. Little does he know, Carrie can definitely protect herself.
Yes.
But she doesn't know that, and it's King goes on to say that it's a little more tragic in his book because the dude, it plays off as he really, really wanted to do the right thing. And in the movie, it kind of plays, well, he's just doing what his girlfriend wants him to do, and she's trying to make up for the fact that she was part of what happened in the locker room. She genuinely is,
Yeah.
And
So yeah, she's a decent human being who was caught up in that, and King does this a lot too, but how easy it is for like a decent person to be caught up in that mob.
Yeah.
And to just go along because that's what everybody else is doing.
Right, yeah.
But she has the decency to feel shame afterward and to want to make amends.
Yeah. Yeah, it's nice. I didn't really catch that the first time I watched it. I thought they were just really being manipulative. Like I remember thinking, oh, wow, he's actually really being nice to her. And being kind of like, oh, wow, he really did. This is terrible for him as well, but he gets it in the end too. Like, and we'll talk about that here in a second. That's special to me. The part where Billy and Chris are like making out and they're like whispering sweet nothings to one another. And then all of a sudden Chris goes, oh, Billy, I really hate Carrie White. It's like that's her fantasy. That's what gets her off.
It's like a sexual thing.
It's what gets her off in that scene. Yeah, it's the cruelty. The film's somewhat erotic, and there's a hazy camera, in certain, especially in the outside films. It gives this like softcore porn feel to it almost. It's really weird, but that's very Brian De Palma apparently. So it got me excited. It is weird. There are tone shifts, and King goes on to say here, though, quote, the book attempts to look at the ant farm of high school society dead on. De Palma's explanation of this high school confidential world is more oblique and more cutting. And it really, like, apparently it is. Like because the tone shifts really bring that into effect. You forget sometimes, you're like, oh, I'm just watching a high school movie, and then fucking they'll go for each other's throats.
Yes.
And you're just like, how can she stay sane? How could she not do what she does in this environment, in her upbringing? Well,
that's the thing. I mean, this story, maybe more than any other of King's, has a very Greek feel to it in the inevitability
of what happens. Yeah.
It's awesome. In the inevitability of what happens, despite the fact that decent people try to help her.
Yeah.
Two decent people really make an effort. Mm-hmm. So it's not a case of, it would have been less tragic then, but it's more tragic in the face of that, right?
Right.
Because something gets set in motion that nobody can stop. Least of all Carrie.
Right. Oh, no. Yeah. It's so powerful when it actually happens, too. And there's a lot to take in there, too.
So those visuals at the end are just...
The mom being in denial about why the husband left was really interesting to me.
I got some guesses.
Yeah. That was, and it's just
the
cruel.
Creepy Jesus closet.
Yeah, yeah. It's just cruel, dude. What she does to her mom or what she does to her daughter,
Homeboy should have taken his baby girl with him.
Right. That's what I think too. I'm
what
like,
were you
bro,
doing,
what?
Man?
Yeah, come on, dude. And it's your firstborn. Let's go. Let's see. Carrie makes her own prom dress, which was badass. And I remember her, like, somebody goes, oh, where did you get that dress? She goes, I made it. And she like stops and goes, you made that? Like, Carrie's a fucking awesome person, And yeah, she's a little twisted because of what happened, what she's been raised as.
That part always makes me think of this movie, this story. It's a Cinderella story without the happy ending.
Right. Yeah, it is.
Everything happens in the Cinderella story that's supposed to happen, except
it's kind of like
the prince at the end.
It's kind of like She's All That. Where Freddie Prinze Jr. goes on this bet to turn this nerdy girl into a hottie, and he falls in love with her on the way. And then she finds out it was a bet. There's that whole like Saved by the Bell storyline.
But she's got, she's basically got her own magic power. No fairy godmother, but she gets the magic power, right? And she's headed to the ball. So it's a Cinderella story that drives itself into a wall.
And her mom is so like terrible right before prom. Right before prom, she's getting picked up. He's not coming. He's not coming. He's not going to come. And she's like, and then there's a little bit of foreshadowing. They're all going to laugh at you. They're all going to laugh at you. She keeps repeating that. And
then, of course, when it comes true.
Yeah. Oh, man, it sucks.
Whatever's left of Carrie's poor, whatever's holding her psyche together just crumbles.
And the setup to her being crowned prom queen is so good. Like, she gets everything she wants.
Again, this dude
is telling her he actually likes her. Oh my God, we're going to actually be prom king and queen. She's actually happy. She's dancing with someone. Everybody seems to be enjoying one another. And then there's the slow motion descent up to the stage. And dude, the slow-mo, like this setup takes like 10 minutes. From the time she starts walking to the stage to the time the blood spills.
You got to get the knife in real slow so that you can twist it.
Oh, man, it's so effective. It's so effective. Because when that blood spills and everybody sees it, and then the people who didn't know about it see and realize what just happened, holy fuck, dude. And then you see the gym teacher take out the girl who's actually trying to help because she thinks she's trying to make fun of her.
Yeah.
And it just makes it, you're like, oh man, they could have had it right there. They could have saved her.
I mean, you've heard of a comedy of errors. This is a tragedy of errors.
So, I mean, and this is, okay, so the split screen and the use of the color red, man.
And De Palma does a lot of that
awesome
split screen throughout his career. Did in Mission Impossible.
Yeah, it's really good in Mission Impossible. Yeah. God, I love that movie.
I'm really suspicious of that trick, by the way. Probably just because after De Palma did it so well, so many people did it so badly.
Yeah.
But he pulls it off.
So once her reign of terror starts, the good and the bad people die, bro. Like, and it's...
it's just an explosion, yeah.
Yeah, the gym teacher who was helping her the whole time dies. The boy who actually liked her, that was trying to show her a good time, dies. And in terrible ways, too, like they're not that terrible. It's not really gory, but it's...
King has a special gift, among his other special gifts, but he has a special gift for the variety of ways he invents...
in which people die.
Kill people in his stories.
I mean, one girl gets bludgeoned to death by the fire hose, and it's just, man, it's so terrifying because they can't escape. And think about if this actually happened in a small town, man. Think about that, like it was prom night and everyone was trapped in the gym and the gym caught on fire and everybody died. Like, that's just insane.
Yeah, it's like 20% of your town.
Yeah, that's just insane. But yeah, that was very effective. And then we get the prom scene is so merciless. She sort of kind of becomes the villain. So like the protagonist and the antagonist show a lot of similarities in this film, even though like the joy they get from their cruelty is equal.
Is she a villain at the end?
Well, they kind of paint her as that because, again, the good people and the bad people are dying.
Sure, no, people are dying indiscriminately.
Yeah.
But I have a hard time even seeing her as a person at the end.
Yeah, she's more of an entity. Yeah.
She's become like this force of nature.
Yeah,
I mean, she has been psychologically destroyed.
Yeah.
And this power that she has that she doesn't understand and has been terrified of and like keeping a lid on as best she can. Well, when her mind goes, her ability to check anything goes.
Yeah. Well, Karine Kusama says, and she brought up a really good point when she was like, we want to see her get that revenge.
Yeah.
So therefore, we become we become the cruel person, and this just shows. And one of the subtexts of this film is no one wins in revenge. Like even though she wins, she destroys herself doing it. At the end. And I
also,
think that's cool little subtext there.
And also that just when you allow a social environment to become that toxic.
Yeah.
even the people who are perpetrating like the bullying and the violence, like nobody's going to get away clean.
Yeah, no. And it's just a heartbreaking, scary, powerful fucking scene. And it says the most about the movie. Apparently, it wasn't the biggest scene in the book. You know, the movie really did what the job was, you know, set out to be done. But so some of the other subtext of this film is sometimes parents don't want their children. Any comments?
Fuck are you looking at me for? Well, look, I mean, no, sometimes parents don't want their children, and sometimes parents can be, even without knowing it, just the most counterproductive, horrible force in a child's life, right? I hope that I'm not.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got my wife, she's good at it, and I just kind of follow her lead.
Yeah. Oh, you guys are good parents.
But the one thing I've noticed about parenting is that like 90% of it is just not actively fucking them up. 90% of being a parent it's like the first rule doctors have: first, do no harm.
Yeah.
If you can stick to that as a parent, you're 90% of the way there. Mm-hmm. Right? Just don't do anything that's going to actively sabotage them, make them feel bad about themselves.
Sabotage their future.
Yeah, in that vein, right? Don't, for instance, tell them everyone's going to laugh at you when they've gotten an invitation to prom.
Yeah. Again, we talked about, or one of the things that this is what it was the most about to me is repression. When we repress what's inside of us, or when we are repressed, sometimes bad things happen. And so I just feel
there's
like...
a great, have I mentioned this before on the podcast, but there's an apocryphal gospel that wasn't included in the Bible called the Gospel of St. Thomas, I believe.
Is it St. Thomas Aquinas?
No, it comes from like those scrolls they found, the Dead Sea Scrolls.
Oh, yeah.
So they have found some...
I know what you're talking about now.
Some unofficial accounts of Jesus' life that weren't included in the Bible. But there's a line in there that says something to the effect of, if you have something inside of you and you bring it out, then that thing will save you. Mm-hmm. But if you have something inside of you and you don't bring it out, then that thing can destroy you.
Yeah.
Which is a little bit along, which I've always liked that. I didn't get it right. Look it up because the original phrasing is better. But I've always liked that, and it is sort of counter to the, repression, because that's one of the things that it's saying, I think, is, when there's, and in Carrie's case, aside from everything else that's going on with her, she has this gift that can't be explained.
Yeah.
Power, let's say. It's not exactly a gift. And of course, no one to talk about it with, no one to commiserate with, no one to give any sort of advice.
Yeah. It's
it's
written very interestingly. But
we should say that we're incredibly lucky to even have this movie or this book at all. Because Stephen King threw the manuscript away. He threw it in the trash. And it was his wife Tabitha King, who pulled it out of the trash, looked at it and said, I think you got something here. You should keep going.
Yeah, I love that story. I'm sorry I'm stretching.
But that's one of my...
It's been a long week.
That's one of my... It's been nothing but long weeks since March of 2020.
I know, dude. Well, let's stay in that vein. Let's stay in that lane real quick.
So at this point in his life, I just love this whole story.
Yeah, can I read the fucking excerpt? Can I read?
All right, fine. You brought the text.
I brought the text.
You brought the sacred book.
Well, it's from his own mouth, so I feel like we should at least say it, and then we can talk about it. So this is him talking about the way he was living when he wrote Carrie. Quote, I had been running sheets in an industry laundry for $1.60 an hour and writing Carrie in the furnace room of a trailer. Just picture that, dude. My daughter, who was then almost a year old, was dressed mostly in scrounged clothes. The year before that, I had married my wife, Tabitha, in a borrowed suit that was too big for me. I left the laundry when a teaching position opened up at a nearby school, Hampton Academy. And my wife, Tabby, and I were dismayed to learn that my first year's salary of $6,400 was not going to take us much further than my laundry salary, and pretty soon I'd secured my laundry job back for the following summer. This was while he was writing Carrie.
It's about what teachers make now, too.
Yeah. Damn. And then it got picked up by some publishers, and then the publishers sold the rights, and he made money, and then the movie came out, and then boom.
Yeah, that part of the story is even great, too, because it gets picked up for a hardback publication.
Yeah.
Which is great, but it's not a lot of money. And great news for him because, it's a major publication. But then he gets a call one day when he's back at the trailer, and it's his editor letting him know that they just sold the paperback rights for Carrie for, I believe it was like $200,000.
Oh, really?
Which would be even more money than it is now because, money doesn't really mean anything. That's my understanding of economics, by the way. I'm doing great. But it was that. And he's got a great line in there where it's he's home by himself and his wife's at work. And he wants to go get his wife a present when he gives her this news. So he goes to the only store that's nearby, and it's like some shitty little kind of general store. Yeah. And I think the best thing he could find was like a hairdryer.
Yeah.
Like a cheap hairdryer. So he buys that. She comes home. She's like, "What's going on, honey?" He's like, "Oh, we're rich. Here's a hairdryer."
That's great.
I just love that story.
That is a good story.
You should read his book on writing because he tells it better in that book.
Did you notice the Psycho score, basically, or the Psycho like stuff with the strings, the ring, ring, ring?
Oh, so the sound effects, yeah.
Yeah. So that's on purpose, apparently, which I thought was really neat. Let's see. So I have a star. This is the big thing to me. Religious fanaticism, of course, is the horror of the film. If you're looking at what is going on in the world today with Afghanistan, it shows you, and not only in Christianity, but in other religions, in most religions, actually, they attempt to control women, sexually and socially, and sometimes economically. And that's exactly like what her mother is insinuating with religion. Basically, she's and something that my partner has a problem with religion.
Well, it's odd,
and the Bible and so on and so forth.
It's odd though too that it's a woman doing the oppressing in the name of religion.
Right. That's the tragedy behind it.
Which I know happens in the real world.
Yeah.
You can take the position of your abuser, regardless of whether the abuser is like an actual person or an entity that lives in your head. But again, I think King's books overall give a much more nuanced view of religion than you might think if you just read like a handful of them.
Yeah.
A much more sort of sophisticated view of it. I feel weird defending religion.
I don't.
Maybe I'm having a
I don't defend
stroke.
religion. Sorry, I don't defend religion. I just think I don't know. I just think that some religions are very, very, or some interpretations of certain religions are very antiquated. But yeah, I'm all for getting people out of Afghanistan right now. Because I would not want to be there, especially if I was a woman.
I don't even like going outside.
Yeah, so no kidding.
I definitely don't want to go to that part of the world.
Here's a major difference from the book and the film as well. In the book, Carrie just like stops her mom's heart, apparently, because she can do that.
Nice.
Yeah, that's kind of sick, but
not very cinematic.
But not cinematic. So what does the Palma do? He crucifies her, and she has a fucking orgasm from it. Because she's going to meet her maker. This is like what she's always wanted to do, was become a martyr for Jesus and meet Jesus. And so here you go. But originally that was not De Palma's idea. That was Piper Laurie's idea.
No shit.
She said, I think this character wants this. I think this character is going to be happy that she's quote unquote going to meet her maker, which she's probably not. Even if Christianity is real, she's not going to heaven.
I mean, fundamentalist religious beliefs of all stripes are frequently labeled as death cults. Because there's a there's
religious death cult.
It can be it's more sophisticated than this, but there's a fine line between There's a fine line between someone who believes that, that there's a paradise waiting for them at the end of their life if they're a good person according to whatever particular religious tradition that they're in. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, and other people have talked about this more eloquently than I'm going to be able to, but the thing is, if you really believe that paradise awaits you after death, I mean, if you genuinely believe that paradise awaits you after death, there's not a lot of really good reasons to stick around.
Yeah, other than you can't commit suicide.
Unless you're
if you try to take the easy way to quote unquote paradise, you will not go to paradise.
Which is probably why, simply on a structural level, so many religious traditions do in fact include that prohibition.
Yeah, you can't commit
against the easy way out.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just another example of how religion might or might not have been created to control people, but So yeah, the Palmer has her crucified, which is amazing. So yeah, let's continue our King love here.
I just want to keep nerding out on Stephen King, which I could do all day, every day.
You're more of a fan of him than I am.
Well,
I like the older stuff.
He's what got me into horror.
Yeah, and I was very pleased to hear that what inspired him to write horror was basically everything that inspires what my love of horror is, which is
say the name,
the Lovecraft and the Edgar Allan Poe's But I do want to mention this.
I'm gonna get a bell, and every time we mention Lovecraft, I'm gonna press the bell.
Well, and I forgot. I'm glad you brought that up. The film
You're glad I brought up Lovecraft?
Yes. The film ends with Carrie bringing down the house. Basically, she literally burns and crushes her house on top of her and her mother, who she's just crucified with kitchen utensils. And that is a trope in horror. It happens a lot more in the Gothic sense of horror, like in the Gothic novel.
I know the short story. I'm going to let you say it.
But The Fall of the House of Usher would be a really good example.
Do you think I should get a separate bell for Poe, or just use the same bell?
Well, Poe's, but I'm not going to mention Poe as much as Lovecraft probably on this show, so... We'll get a special. We'll get like a caw, like a raven's caw for Poe.
What about a bicorn?
That'll work too. That just sounds too much like a comedy show to me. And then there's also The Lurking Fear by H.P. Lovecraft that ends in fire, and so the cleansing fire is kind of the subtext there. But I love that her hand reaches up and grabs her friend at the end. I thought that was really cool. But anyway, the crumbling, burning house is a horror trope. Let's get back to Stephen King.
So this is our third King movie, which
it's our third, right? Surprising,
because I thought we would have gotten to more of them by now. But that's fine.
We reference him a lot.
We're going to do this until we're in a nursing home, and we're going to get to all of them. And he's still churning out the books, so there's going to be more movies. Mm-hmm. But we did Maximum Overdrive first.
We did. I can't believe that was our first one.
We started at the bottom.
Man.
And then we did Children of the Corn.
Right.
Adapted from one of his short stories. But I have here this list. It's from Rolling Stone, the top 30 Stephen King movies ranked.
Well, you got to trust Rolling Stone. I always kind of have, especially with their rankings. I don't know why. Because it's easy to say Rolling Stone said...
Well, the byline on this has like 10 people.
So this
was a collaborative effort, which I like more than the single author efforts, I think.
Yeah.
Let's try to get a little perspective and work out
That's nice.
A real ranking. But, Levi, having not seen this...
Yeah.
2 questions. Number 1.
Yeah.
Where would you put Carrie in the list of all the Stephen King movies that you've seen?
3.
Number 3?
3 or 4, yeah.
3 from the top?
Yeah. I mean, it's just so iconic. And I use that word a lot for films, and I feel like I overuse it. I'm sorry. But Carrie is just iconic as hell. And dude, I mean, look, like that scene is incredible. The use of color. I mean, that scene alone sells me. It really does. I fucking love it, but I can't put it in front of these two.
In front of The Shining or Shawshank Redemption.
I cannot. The Shawshank Redemption is one of the best movies ever made, and The Shining is like my favorite horror film.
So Rolling Stone puts Carrie at number 1.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, I did not expect that.
And I
thought it would be Shawshank.
And I think that's completely defensible. I wouldn't put it at number 1 either. Mm-hmm. I don't think. I think my number 1 would have to be Stand By Me.
Oh, wow. Yeah, there you go. Green Mile's a good one, too.
Green Mile's amazing. I think Stand By Me would have to be my number 1. Mm-hmm. And my number 2... See, even though I know King hates The Shining, the movie adaptation of it, that's going to be in my top
movie's so
3.
damn
I
good.
fucking love that movie.
I know. Silver Bullet's in there for me. It's just a weird film.
So Silver Bullet, Rolling Stone here, they've got Maximum Overdrive at 26.
Lawnmower Man. I've seen Lawnmower Man. I didn't even realize that was King.
So this is like the top 30, and they've got Maximum Overdrive at 26.
They have Night Flyers at 30.
Night Flyers at 30.
Everyone.
I'm not sure it should be that high.
Dreamcatcher.
Dreamcatcher was such a mess. Did you see
I know,
the movie?
I did. I went in theaters and saw it.
I liked the book. The book's a little bit of a mess. And in Stephen King's defense, he was taking a lot of painkillers after his... I think that's the first book that he wrote after he got hit by that van and almost killed.
Yeah.
So, he had a legitimate reason to take some painkillers.
Oh, 1408.
They've got 1408 at number 27.
I didn't
Wasn't
care for
great.
as much, yeah.
Although it is below Maximum Overdrive. That's got to
crazy
sting
me.
a little bit.
And then Lawnmower Man, terrible.
25.
God, that's bad.
Yeah.
I kind of remember
Got
it.
Jeff
kinda
Fahey.
don't. Yeah.
I mean, doesn't it have Pierce Brosnan in it too?
I don't know. I thought John Malkovich was in it, but I don't know.
Number 24. Have you seen this one? Really interesting King movie,
No.
Hearts in Atlantis.
No.
It's adapted from one of his novellas, and it's like half of it is like a side adventure from the Dark Tower universe.
Okay.
And then half of it has got like this very nostalgic Stand By Me vibe to it.
Okay.
It's really interesting. And plus it's got Anthony Hopkins in it, so what's not to like?
Yeah, right. I can get behind that.
Number 23, Thinner.
Yeah.
Thinner on the Rolling
poster
Stone
scared
list.
me more than the movie did.
But the movie's pretty well done.
Yeah, it's not bad. I do remember that being a big deal. Secret Window, 22. I actually liked that movie.
I did not like that movie.
Eh.
And strangely, what I didn't like about the movie was Johnny Depp.
Yeah.
And I usually like him. I
I
like
like
him in a lot
his
of
character, the robe-wearing writer who eats junk food.
things. Number 21, Needful Things.
Right.
Have you seen that one?
No, I haven't. I've heard of it.
That we should put that on the list because it's definitely
It's a horror film?
yeah. Huh. Well, I mean, it's the antagonist is a demon, so
Oh, I didn't know
kinda
this.
has to be a horror film.
I didn't know this.
But the book, that was one of the books of his that I enjoyed the most. Like that's probably in my top 10 reading experiences with
cool.
King. And I remember thinking that's going to be a hard one to convert to a movie, just because of the scope of it. But they did a decent job, and Ed Harris is in it. So
Green Mile, there it is. Number 20?
number 20 on the Green Mile. I would have put that
Ouch.
higher. I think.
Yeah, me too. It's a great film.
Number 19, Silver Bullet.
There it is, baby. What a great werewolf film. It's fun. It's just fun.
Which, if I'm just doing werewolf movies, that's in my top 3.
I agree. Well, American Werewolf in London takes number 1.
Of course, there's no other contender.
What would take number 2 for you then?
The Howling.
Oh, yeah. And then Silver Bullet? Man, I might put Wolf over The Howling, the Jack Nicholson mess of a film.
I tried to like that movie. I
just
liked
liked
all
it a
the
lot as a
actors in
kid.
it. There was just something.
I know.
don't know.
I just liked it a lot as a kid. Cujo.
Number 18, Cujo.
All right. I'm going to admit something here. Never seen it.
Well, Dee Wallace is in it, so that's a reason to watch
I know
it.
we've talked about it.
But it is one of the hardest ones to watch. Well, because there's a kid in jeopardy.
Yeah.
And I have a hard time with movies
Well,
where
for me,
kids
it's
are
dog. I
threatened.
care more about dogs than I do children.
Well,
so that's going to be hard for
then
me.
you wouldn't like that on either
Running
level.
Man, I've seen for sure. God, I didn't know that was
1987. Number
Stephen King.
17, The Running Man. Yeah, it's from one of his short stories.
I did not know that.
But he wrote it under that Richard Bachman pen name.
Oh, okay.
And can
That's
we-
interesting.
I'm sure we've mentioned this before, but in any conversation about Stephen King, you have to stop and marvel at the man's relentless productivity.
Yeah, it's
He didn't
prolific
even
as
stop
hell.
writing when he was almost murdered by a guy in a van.
That's all he knows. What did he say he writes a minimum every day?
It's like 5 pages or
5
something.
pages a day, yeah. Minimum. That's incredible.
So The Running Man, I would not have put that high.
It's very Howard.
I might have put The Running Man at number 30.
Man, I
mean,
just
it's-
don't see it. It just doesn't feel like King to me at
got-
all. Even his stuff that's not horror just doesn't feel like King.
It's got the Governator in it.
It does have
So
Arnold.
it's fun in that way.
I love
It's
Arnold.
watchable.
Pet Cemetery, number 16.
The original Pet Cemetery, number 16.
I remember being scared of this film as a kid.
That movie scared the ever-loving
The
hell.
zombie little boy scared the crap out of me, dude.
I just want to play with you.
Yeah, it scared me, dude. He scared me. But that kid's in, let's go back to Arnold. That kid is adorable in Kindergarten Cop.
Is that kid in Kindergarten
Yeah,
Cop?
he is. Yeah. And he's adorable, dude. He's awesome. He's like the little shy kid.
Is he the main
No.
lady's son?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
Number 15,
Eye.
Cat's Eye. Have you seen that?
No, I haven't.
Little monster lives in the walls.
That sounds cool. I want to watch that.
Number 14, Firestarter.
Drew Barrymore.
I'd have put that higher.
So is Firestarter a prequel to Carrie?
No, not at all. But it's similar in the sense that you have a young girl with some sort of kind of extraordinary power, and in that case, she starts fires.
Ooh, apt pupil.
Pyrokinesis.
I remember that.
Apt pupil, about that kid who discovers a Nazi living in his neighborhood.
Yeah, strange.
That's number 13. Number 12 is The Dark Half
I still haven't seen this. It's on our list though.
with Timothy Hutton,
Right.
and it's really good.
Yeah, that's why it's on our list. You say it's really good.
It's
probably gonna
also-
be crap, but we'll see.
I think it's also one of the. I read the novel that it's from. Is it a novel or a novella that it's from? I don't remember, but I remember thinking that it was one of the more faithful adaptations.
Did it say it's George Romero?
Did he direct it?
The late great George Romero's.
Yeah, George Romero
surprisingly
directed it.
personal tale. Oh, we'll have to definitely cover that.
George Romero of Night of the Living Dead fame.
Never even heard of this.
Dolores Claiborne. I've heard of it, and it's got Kathy Bates in it.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of her. I really am. Ooh, Misery's on my list.
And she was famously in Misery.
Yeah, God,
but I
what a
haven't
great-
seen that one either.
It's a good one.
This is
Creep
odd.
Show.
Creep Show's number 10. Now, Creep Show's fun.
Yeah, it is. It's a horror anthology. There's even a second one, and I think every little short is directed by a different director.
But you're going to put Creep Show that far ahead of Silver
Yeah,
Bullet?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. So there's like 4 I haven't seen yet. I was gonna say The Mist.
The Mist
Misery.
at number 9.
Yeah,
So The Mist has to be in the top 10.
yeah, I agree.
I think top 5 even.
Dude, that ending is so gut wrenching. It's incredible.
That ending leaves a mark.
Man,
you're not
I
going to
love
forget
horror
that.
that does that. That's so good. Christine,
Number 8.
ugh.
You didn't like
It's
Christine?
Carpenter though, so right.
John
That's
Carpenter directing.
Yeah,
Stephen King wrote it. What's not to like?
I don't know. I just don't like vehicles that are haunted.
I'm not super into cars, so I think
I am though, but I'm just not. I'm into old cars. I'm not. I don't know. I'm just not into Christine for some reason.
the thing that I appreciated most about Christine, I think, is just that relationship between the guy who's obsessed with the haunted car and his best friend who sees him sliding down and tries to save him.
Oh, right. I think I know what you're talking about. I'm gonna
Children of
pretend
the
like I
Corn
do.
at number 7.
There it is.
Good movie. Not sure I would have put it that high.
Quarantine.
I'm not acknowledging your pun. Not acknowledging puns.
There it is. Shawshank at number
6.
6.
The Shawshank Redemption. Yeah.
The fuck? Sorry, Rolling Stone. You just lost all credibility with me. That's number 1 or 2. Sorry.
They should have called us if they wanted a ranked list of Stephen King.
They really should have. But we haven't
what
seen
the hell?
everything. We haven't seen all of them, so we can't do this.
There's only been like 2.
The Shining's number 5. Get fucked, Rolling Stone. I'm sorry. I just got really. I just
number
got
5, The
really-
Shining.
Oh man, you're gonna have to bleep that out.
And again, King has never said a nice thing about that movie.
I
And I understand why, because the
man.
book is so different. But they can both
So many layers going on in that film.
be good, I guess is my thing.
But yeah, everybody.
All right.
Stand By Me. There you go.
Number 4,
There
Stand By
you
Me, 1986. Stand By Me is one of those movies when you're talking about, people who aren't King nerds. A lot of people have no idea that Stephen King wrote that story.
Yeah.
Because it comes from a novella that was originally called The Body.
Right. Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I thought it was just called Stand By Me.
And it's fantastic too. It's well worth reading and very similar to the movie, although that's actually one of those cases where I think the movie's better.
Yeah.
I think the novella is so good. That's what made me want to go watch the movie when I heard about it. But
I want to read that now.
it's really good.
Interesting.
Number 3 is The Dead Zone. David Cronenberg.
Wow.
And of course, starring Christopher Walken. So, you got David Cronenberg, you got Christopher Walken. What's not to like about that combination?
Mm-hmm.
But I don't see any justification for making that movie
Number 3.
Not
Yeah.
number 3.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll have to cover that one as well. It's got Walken in it, man.
And of course, later they made a TV show.
Cronenberg. Yeah. They did. Yeah. They did.
The first season of which was not horrible. Number 2, Misery.
There it is. I was waiting on that one. God,
Kathy Bates and James Caan.
God, we're gonna have to cover that one too. It's so good. I just love those 2 actors. It's been a while since I've seen it. I don't have to rewatch it, honestly.
That's one of those movies
but I do really like it.
where when I finished seeing it for the first time, my jaw hurt because I'd been clenching my teeth.
Yeah, no,
from the tension.
It's hard, man. And I get as him being a writer writing that story.
Yeah.
That's a fear of any, I guess, successful writer.
All right, and then their number one is Carrie.
Incredible film. It really is. It's got to be one of the top American horror films. It's got to be.
If I'm going to top 10 it,
yeah.
see if I can top 10 this real quick. So, Carrie's in the top 10.
Okay.
Stand By Me's in my top 10. The Shining's in my top 10. Silver Bullet's in my top 10. Misery's going to be in my top 10. And these are just Stephen King movies, by the way. Did I say Stand By Me yet? Yes.
Yeah. Did you say Shawshank?
I don't know if I'm putting that in my top
Son of
10
a
because even though
bitch.
I really like it, I like some of these more. But I'm completely sympathetic to the argument that it should be. in
You
the top
would
10
like
'cause it's
them
great.
more.
I would put The Mist in the top 10. That's number 6 for me. I would put The Dark Half in my top 10. That's number 7. You know what's not on this list? Sleepwalkers.
Oh no, it's not. There's some. What other one is not on there that I noticed? Oh, 1922 isn't on there either. But that's a Netflix film. But it's still a Stephen King.
But Sleepwalkers has been out for a while, and it's well worth watching. It's weird.
Yeah, Gerald's Game's not on there either.
Oh, it's
That's
not?
a Stephen King adaptation as well.
I would do the original Pet Sematary. I think that gets me at 7. I'm going to do The Green Mile.
There you go.
That gets me at 8. Hearts in Atlantis I'm going to do because I'm a sucker for nostalgia. That gets me at 9.
You got one more. Maximum Overdrive. Go ahead and do it. I know you want to do it.
I'm going to scroll. I don't want to yeah, I'm going to do Maximum.
That's what I fucking thought you would.
All right, top 10, Levi. Top
I don't
10
want to
Stephen
do
King
it.
movies.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it does.
Doesn't matter.
You got to do it right now.
The Shining.
On the night.
Hold on. The Shining, Shawshank Redemption, Carrie, Misery, The Mist, Stand By Me, Secret Window. That's 7. Green Mile. That's 8. Silver Bullet. That's 9. Let's give me one more. Pet Cemetery. Yeah, those would be mine. I skipped Cujo because I haven't seen it. So
I like how
can't say that.
both of us had to count on our fingers
Yeah.
to keep track of a simple number like 10.
Well, I mean, once I get
That's
past
hard.
like 5, I lose it.
My mental ability to grasp the concept of numbers stops around.
It's been a long
Limited
week.
by the number
it's
of
been a
fingers
long
that I have.
decade. Oh man.
So I know we got to shut this down. Carrie's fantastic. Go rewatch it. It holds up to a rewatching.
It also
Should we talk about the remakes?
contemporarily it holds water because of some things we're seeing these days, especially with religious fanaticism and what it's throwing at COVID-19 and elections and so on and so forth.
And because high school has never gotten less horrible.
That's right. So
It's one of those things in America we just decided we couldn't fix.
This was our back to
So
school
difficult.
episode. Yeah. So I forgot to mention, welcome back to school, kids.
Welcome back to school.
Geez. Yeah.
If you notice a classmate is able to move objects with her mind
Don't make fun of her.
or his mind, you should be
them
nice to
nicely.
that person.
Yeah. Treat them nicely. What did you want to say? I'm sorry.
Oh, I said, should we get into the remakes or sequels at all?
Oh, there's almost as many remakes and sequels as Children of the Corn. So we know there's The Rage, Carrie 2, and there has been 2 remakes. There was one, I think, in 2002, and then there was one in 2013.
And this, I know, again, I'm not always against remakes.
I want to see the 2013 one. I really do.
There's no reason to remake this movie.
No.
How are you going to improve on this movie? How are you going to make it? To me, if you're going to do a remake, then you either need to somehow make it more contemporary than the original.
That's probably what they did with the 2013 one.
But in a real way, in
Yeah.
something that makes it so much more relevant that it's worth watching over the original. That's always my question.
Yeah.
Why would I watch the remake versus the original? So you've either got to make it much more contemporary, or you've got to find a way to, I don't know, turn up the volume some sense in an interesting way. I think the Dawn of the Dead remake did that.
Yeah.
It wasn't exactly more contemporary because the old one was never not contemporary exactly, right?
Yeah.
But it turned up the volume because it was using fast zombies instead of slow ones.
Yeah.
And it was so competently done that that's worth watching.
Ooh, what's her name? She plays the mother.
Julianne Moore?
Julianne Moore plays the mother in the 2013 remake. I want to show you this poster if I can find it.
Do you think...
It's really cool.
I just thought of her because she's in Hannibal.
Yeah.
One of those Hannibal Lecter sequels. Do you think Silence of the Lambs is a horror movie?
I do. There are horror aspects to it. I don't know. I feel like I've listened to this conversation before.
Well, we've talked about this in the context of other thrillers / like suspense movies.
That's such a cool poster.
That is.
I really like that.
But there's when you get into thriller and suspense, horror is such like a natural adjacent quality to those. But I'm not sure if. But some of them don't exactly qualify as horror movies.
It's more. There's some people I know that like to ruffle feathers, and so they would say it's a crime drama, or, like the case of Emily Rose or whatever is a courtroom drama. Like it's, I don't know. To me, as a young person, Silence of the Lambs was a horror movie, and so because it had a killer, it had a monster, it had a final girl. Basically, it just felt like a horror movie. It's just a little more thought out than your average horror movie. I don't know. It's a good question.
At some point, I want to do. To me, anything with Hannibal Lecter in it's a horror movie or
agree.
a horror TV show.
I
that
agree.
character's so
he's
fascinating.
He's a monster
and monstrous.
Yeah.
So at some point, I want to do Silence of the Lambs or something, just so we can get into what's attractive about Hannibal Lecter.
Yeah, I'd love to talk about the character.
Maybe we can get Stephen King to come on,
or maybe we get
sit
Mads
right here.
Mikkelsen. He could smoke cigarettes with me.
One of the few great smokers. Do you know? Oh, I'm going to mess this guy's name up, but he's a philosopher. And so, of course, no one's ever heard of him. But he's got quite a few. He's got books, of course, but you're not going to read the books. But he's also got several YouTube lectures or conferences where he's invited to speak. And I'm going to butcher his name. His name is, well, Levi, you can pronounce that.
Oh, wow. Slavoj
Žižek?
Žižek? Yeah.
So anyway, it's Zizek is how the last name is spelled. It's got some accent marks on it, but if you put that into YouTube, you're going to find his lectures. Mm-hmm. But aside from being a really interesting, thought-provoking, controversial thinker, I was watching a video of his the other night just randomly, and he made a point that made me think of you. He said, the only true hedonists left in the world are people who smoke cigarettes.
Oh, wow. That's an interesting take.
Because it's something that you do just for pleasure and just from yourself, despite the now almost complete cultural condemnation of it.
Yeah. Oh no, it is. And then the more the Zoomers take hold of society, they don't smoke cigarettes. They vape. Yeah. And so, I was mentioning that last night. I feel like an outcast almost because I'm still that generation that smoked cigarettes, but I see, because I work at a coffee shop, I see the generation after mine that doesn't, like none of them smoke cigarettes. So it's interesting.
One thing I've noticed that confuses me in this,
I hate cigarettes though.
Is that there are a lot of people who will be very open about like going home and rolling a spliff and smoking that.
Yeah.
But they still try to side eye the cigarette folks. And I'm not sure that's fair.
Well, there's rat poison in the cigarette. There's all kinds of shit in the cigarettes.
I have no doubt that I'm not arguing that anyone should start smoking because it's very bad for you. But at the same time, it just always seemed odd to me that you'd have a group of people who were like okay with smoking weed.
Yeah.
And then felt like they still had the, I don't know, whatever health or cultural authority to side eye the folks that are still smoking cigarettes.
Yeah, they have no argument. Although there are chemicals in cigarettes that are way worse for you than
I believe
marijuana.
That's true.
But
and smoke what you're going to smoke. I'm not judging.
Right. Just, be careful who lights your cigarette on fire for you.
You got anything else?
No, I love this movie. I don't have to sell it really. It's iconic. Again, there's that word I keep using, but
do we get to tell people about your project? Do we get to say anything
not yet?
Oh, come on.
Not yet. We're gonna keep working on it.
Fine.
I do have a new project up. It will be releasing hopefully soon. But we'll talk more about that later on. And we have a few ideas. Oh, we were even talking about renaming our show because people took our effing name, Jonathan, because we didn't copyright it or whatever.
Trademark it.
We didn't trademark
it.
We could have, apparently.
So now,
too,
if you do a search for Well Adjusted in any of your favorite podcast directories, there's like 4 different ones.
Before there wasn't. Like, let's make that clear too. Like, it's not that they saw ours and decided to go with that too. I think it was just a time period where that made sense.
Well,
to name a podcast,
I think it was just people like being too lazy to Google whether or not there was an existing thing by that name when they named it.
Because we Googled and we found Well-Adjusted Mom, and that was it. So,
and we didn't think anybody would confuse us with mommy podcasters.
But I have an alternate name, and we've talked about this: Absolute Horror. But I like that one. I haven't typed that in though, so here I am being the lazy pieces of crap that we were just talking.
Do you think Absolute Vodka would get mad at us if our logo was like a trade on their label?
Yeah, absolutely. We're not doing that. But hey, if Well Adjusted's name gets changed to Absolute Horror, we will let you know. You will not be shocked by that or surprised.
Let us know what you think about the name, possible name change. As always, please do give us ratings or comments on your favorite podcast directory, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon. We're everywhere.
Yeah, we got an Instagram account too. Follow us on that. on
Instagram, we're at Well Adjusted, so you can drop us in there. You can slide into our DMs.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that is that's
so
It's what the kids are saying. Yeah.
And finally, this episode, hopefully some of you will be watching it on YouTube. Mm-hmm. So drop a comment down there. Let us know what you think.
Yeah, like, subscribe, share, rate, review. You know the drill.
Our significant others and our moms are just so tired of being made to listen to our podcast, guys.
Please like us.